Hi, how's it going? It's Charles Botenston. I am currently in my apartment. Ironically enough, I've done a review on 4 books in a row, and I'll actually briefly go over the other ones before I get into You Were Born Rich. So, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. This is a must-read. This is very up-to-date. Quantum Warrior, which is the future of our mind. That's by John Kehoe. And this is Mind Power, also by John Kehoe. So I would also pick these up. I have reviews about all 3 of them on my other channel. So pick those up. This one is You Were Born Rich, and it's by Bob Proctor. Bob Proctor, I am probably obsessed with him. I have a man crush on him. He's unbelievable. This guy, I first read about him in The Secret, or actually watched The Secret, then I read about him, and I saw Jack Canfield, which you can see Success Principles up here by Jack Canfield. I highly recommend that. That's the old edition. I actually just got his updated edition, which also came out. All the links hopefully will be below. I'm uploading this on my iPad, so I don't know how that's going to work out. But You Were Born Rich by Bob Proctor. This has to be one of the most revolutionary books. So Bob Proctor was influenced by this guy, Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill wrote Think and Grow Rich, and this was in the 1930s. He interviewed 500 of the top business people. Literally, it's amazing. You know, my low battery's coming up, but it's amazing what your mind can do. I always thought it was woo-woo. I thought it was BS. That you can change something based on your mind, change your body, change your happiness, change your wealth, change your your whatever, anything else, your relationships. I thought that what you get in life is all you can get. That's the maximum. Like Dan Sullivan, I think it's Dan Sullivan, talks about the gap. The gap is where you are and where you want to be. What's her name also talks about it in Stop Saying You're Fine. I forgot who that was by. Stop Saying You're Fine. She talks about who you are in your version 2.0, and Dan Sullivan calls it the gap, that gap. So I'm making, say, $50,000, and I want to make $150,000. That gap of $100,000 is, it's either achievable or it's not. And through my whole life, I always thought that it was not achievable to make more money than you're making unless you work hard, unless you spend time at your office and you prove that your salary is worth it. Then I actually had a banner year in 2013 and then surpassed that in 2014, but I spent a lot of money. I saved a lot of money, but I spent a lot of money. And I went over and it was the most amount of money I've ever made, and for me, it was a decent amount. And we're not, like, to be honest, but to me, my mindset was, I'm 29 years old, so I was like, oh, okay, I wonder how I did it. So I didn't think anything of it. And then I had 6 months of just really not produce. I own a real estate company. So then we didn't really produce anything for not 6 months, but like, say 3 months. And I started going into it. I'm like, how did I make so much, or, what I thought was a lot of money, and then I go 3 months of barely making any money, and I started going into it, and then Bob Proctor came up on my YouTube clip to get into and to see some of his clips. I really started jiving into it, and then I read Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker, and then I picked up You Were Born Rich. I have to say, this should be, I don't know what the garbage they're giving the kids in school now, but this has to be a mandatory read. What he talks about in here, it's scary. It'll blow your mind. So in other words, my capacity was, someone can make, and he talks about it. He says he made $1 million in 1 year, but because his mindset wasn't at $1 million, he spent all of it. He spent all of it. And you'll hear about people like Mike Tyson. He made $500 million, and he blew all of it. Curt Schilling, he was a pitcher on the Red Sox, made $100 million. He blew all of it. Your mindset, you'll see someone come out of college and get signed, and their bonus is $10 million, and they'll buy a brand new house, they'll buy a brand new car, and they'll buy all these depreciating assets like clothes and things like that. if your mindset is not at that capacity, you're going to blow all of the money. And that's sort of what happened to me, is that I hit this plateau and my capacity wasn't for more because I didn't even know that I can reach what I reached. So I spent a lot of money, but then I also became complacent. And in here, he talks about, first of all, the first chapter is me and money. In other words, you have to wrap yourself around the capacity that money is important, is that you need money. People hate talking about money. People think it's sinful. People think that rich people are bad, that you can't give when you're rich, that whatever the other just bad things about money. So then you'll never become rich because you look at wealthy people or wealth as a bad thing. But the thing is, money is great. You can give more. If like right now, I give a small amount to 3 charities every single month. It's deducted. But if I had more money, I would give more money. That's the difference. Second chapter is, how much is enough? What is your financial freedom? What's the picture? Is it a big house? Is it to give back all of your money at the end of your life to charity? Is it to, I don't know, build an orphanage? Is it to build a school? Is it to, whatever the case is, to give your time to learn more? I don't know what right now, I'm still in the growth phase while I still give back, but my growth phase is I want to have the amount of money where I can go to more expensive seminars to like this. Like he has a seminar that's a lot of money. I think it's $15,000 to go see him in Toronto. $15,000. People want to become wealthier by wrapping their mind around wealth is good. Wealth is necessary. Wealth gives you better options. Wealth gives you better options. It gives you a better choice to live. It gives you better food. It gives you better trips to go on, people to meet, charities to give back to, things to buy that will just make your life more convenient. If debt is always on your mind, then it's just not a pleasant life. So he goes over you and money. What is your blueprint, as T. Harv Eker says? What is your blueprint for money? Then he starts going into it's all about your mind. In other words, he's training your mind. Then he goes into the expectations of abundance, the law of vibration, whatever you put out in your mind. So in other words, say you say, I want to make tons of money, but then you're actually saying, well, I have a lot of debt and my parents weren't wealthy. That's the vibration you're actually putting out. You want something, but that's superseded by all these doubts and all these beliefs that you don't deserve it, that you shouldn't have it. Then he goes over risk takers. So this is the chapter that really hit home for me. He talks about young millionaires. He talks about investments, business failures. So this is the biggest part holding me back, is taking risks. Like I've always taken risks that I know that I could succeed in. Like I started my own company. I knew that I was going to succeed in that. But the thing is, now that I have my own company, there are risks to getting in front of the right people to expand my company. And those are risks that I need to take on. Then the razor's edge. The razor's edge, this is another chapter. The razor's edge is literally, he talks about the story of, I think it was the 100-meter dash in like the 1978 Olympics. Between first and last place was 1/10 of a second. 1/10 of a second. Then he goes into 2 horses that the first horse won $750,000. The second place horse won $75,000. That's a significant difference between coming in first place in the race, becoming last place in the running race, becoming the first place horse, becoming the second place horse. That's a huge difference in money, yet in time-wise, that's nothing. And he talks about the razor's edge. He also talks about don't think in reverse. In other words, don't talk about your past. Everyone has a bad past. Everyone has gone through some kind of programming, some kind of just something that just was not beneficial to who you should be right now or who you want to be in the future. So don't think about your past. Don't think it in reverse. Then he goes into the vacuum law of prosperity. And then the vacuum law of prosperity is very straightforward. There are only a couple of people that actually want to make it happen, and also removing just the small mindsets that we go throughout our day. So it's going to take time, and it's going to take daily discipline. So perfect example is that I'll have my, in the morning, I have visualizations of where I want my company to be. I want to be the top boutique firm in New York City, but by a certain date. And I just visualize that as I have it actually in the book. I made a little card, and at the top I have Boatenston Properties International, which is my company, as, I don't know what page this was in, but I have it as the number one. So I think about, okay, you're the number one. But then throughout the day, something will sneak in like, how are you going to achieve that? That is where you have to change your mind. And who is it? What's his name? I forgot his name right now, but he brings up is, when that thought comes into your mind, just say, thank you for coming into my mind, thought. And then you just decide not to believe it, and you just send it out of your mind. So say you want to become wealthy, and you have thoughts of, you're never going to be successful, your parents weren't successful, or that your friends aren't successful, or people around you aren't successful. You have a choice to believe it or not to believe it. And that's essentially what You Were Rich is about, is that you have the choice or the last chapter I should say, is you have a choice to think those doubting thoughts and believe it, which is the past, or you have the choice to just send it out. This is clearly this is one of the older versions. I bought it on Amazon for a penny, and then you pay, $3.99. All of my books I try and buy new, like these books, and obviously Think and Grow Rich, and most of the other books behind me I buy new because I want to support the author. Something like this is, I didn't think that there'd be other versions around, but okay, doesn't matter. But this one was made in '97, and it's as applicable today. So I can highly recommend it enough. I don't know, whatever it is. But You Were Born Rich. You have to read this. So